And thank you again for being here, and enjoy the show. So starting off tonight, we have Megan Dolan. Megan is a writer and a storyteller who lives in Long Beach, California during the pandemic. Okay, let's see. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
All right. Is good, everybody? Spotlit?
Yeah.
Go
good.
for it.
Okay. Text from my mom, dated March 31st, 2020, 8:45 a.m. I need 2 large containers of treetop applesauce, unsweetened. We eat it before dinner every day. My mother, Ellen, 79, and my stepfather, Fritz, 80, are both immunocompromised and have been homebound for almost a year. I am their official pandemic shopper, dropping off essentials every 8 to 10 days. Now, my mother has a very specific grocery list, and sometimes I get triggered by certain items. For instance, her affinity for applesauce irritates me. How hard is it to just slice up some fresh apples? She did it all the time when I was a kid. We called them apple boats because the wedges looked like little canoes. And she and Fritz, they both have all of their original teeth. I just see no reason why they can't bite into a nice Honeycrisp or a Pink Lady. No doubt my mom has a preferred type of apple. Golden Delicious, perhaps. Maybe she just can't be bothered getting out the cutting board, slicing the fruit, discarding the seeds, cleaning the knife. I mean, it's a whole thing, right? But applesauce is for the very old or the very young, unless you happen to find yourself at a nice gastropub on Melrose and the dinner special on the neon light up dry erase board is a roasted maple glazed bone-in pork chop that's served with organically grown spinach, garlic infused new potatoes, and a homemade chunky sweet and savory applesauce. Now that is a life-affirming applesauce, and one in which I must partake. But generally speaking, nothing says I've given up like applesauce. And I imagine the two of them at twilight, just sitting in front of the TV, the light bouncing off their faces in the dimly lit family room, and they're watching reruns of Emergency Vet on Animal Planet, and as Fritz slowly lifts a spoonful of applesauce to his mouth and his tremors cause it to splatter all over the pergo floor, and then Roxy, their geriatric one-eyed Cocker Spaniel, gleefully shuffles over to lick it up. Good grief, dear, Mom says as she reaches to steady his hand. And then she returns to her own saucer, greedily inhaling the sweetness that serves as a balm for the permanent panic that resides inside her chest. There are only 30 years between me and the applesauce. The choices that I make now will determine my fate. I want to be a woman of substance, an elder with a twinkle in my eye. I want to make my children and my grandchildren feel uplifted and alive. Hell, I want to do a book tour when I'm 80 and get interviewed by Terry Gross, who'll probably be about 105, but who cares? Because I will have been on fresh air. But currently, I'm exhausted, on edge, and I cannot see how to get there from here. So I pump insight into my head with podcasts with Brene Brown and Michelle Obama and Oprah Winfrey, and these accomplished women and their guests provide temporary existential relief and numerous aha moments as I do the dishes, but it doesn't stick. And before long, my thought patterns default to judgment and despair. And here is where I must be vigilant, because my mother's ancestry carries a strong genetic pull towards annihilation. My great-grandmother, Mary Gaver, my mother's mother's mother, was a fiercely intelligent woman who was rumored to have married beneath her. Now, I do not know how the scene played out, but only its dreadful conclusion. Perhaps she sat at her kitchen table, looking out at the willow in the front yard, then folded her napkin and tidied up before walking to the basement door. Maybe she found the rope in the shed and wasn't sure if she knew how to tie the right knot, but apparently she did. They found her hanging from the basement stairs. And my great-grandfather, Arthur Roy Ferguson, my mother's father's father, was fired for a transgression that nobody remembers, and he gathered supplies and walked to the bank of Elk Creek, where he took strychnine, washing it down with a soda. Now, because Arthur was nothing if not thorough, he then tied a boulder around his neck and waded into the creek. A farmer fished him out and reported Arthur's last words, which were, "I didn't want to be found." My mom has chosen to go for the slow fade instead of the hard out, and most of her days are filled with napping and worrying. What if the dog won't eat? What if the car won't start? What if the gardener's late? I tell her that the dog will eat when she's hungry. I'll check the car. The gardener will come. She nods and sighs, waiting for the next flurry of worry to descend. And I bear witness, hoping to choose a different way when the time comes, because I must not surrender to the applesauce. Thanks.
Thank you, Megan. So good. Thank you, Megan. Can you guys hear me? Cast? Yay. Okay. That is a story I look forward to talking about on Clubhouse after this is over. Yeah, I know. Anyway, it's wonderful. Thank you, Megan. And Megan has a one-woman show that she's written and performed in called Lemur Mom. Okay, next up we have Dakita Brown. She is a mother, wife, and autism advocate who was recently featured in the New York Times piece titled "The Primal Scream: 3 American Mothers on the Brink." You can learn more about her at her website, Walk One Day in Our Shoes. And again, I've posted her bio on the Expressing Motherhood Instagram page. So let's see. Oh, hello. Let me get rid of myself. One second. Sorry, guys. All right.
I think I'm a comedian. As a matter of fact, I know I'm a comedian. I mean, I've got to be, right? I've told so many jokes since this pandemic has started. As a matter of fact, these jokes are so good that I thought I would share a few of them with you tonight. Are you ready? Hold on to your hats because these are some doozies. Joke number 1. We'll love spending every waking moment together being stuck in the house. I've got more, hold on. Number 2. Without a commute every evening, I'll be able to get dinner on the table at a respectable hour. Hold on, there's more. Number 3. We'll all be so productive at home during this pandemic. I can feel it. Joke number 4. On the bright side, kids, mommy can work out every morning since the gym's in the basement and I'm at home. Joke number 5. Distance learning won't be that difficult. Whew. Joke number 6. I am not going to be one of those moms who has to go to sleep every night with a glass of wine. Wine. What? Oh. How did this get here? What the? Next joke. We are not going to be eating takeout every other day. Up next, we have, honey, the first year of middle school is not going to be difficult because you'll be at home with me. Next up, let's get a pandemic puppy. I'll be home all day with the kids and I can train him. It'll be perfect. 1 second. And the last and final joke, which is the funniest of all. More time together at home means more intimacy with my husband. So you see, I'm a comedian, right?
You are. Thank you. Thanks, Dakita. Let's see. All right, guys. I am having technical issues tonight, but that's the way it's going to go. All right. So I don't know if you can see that people are chatting in the chat. It's nice to hear their feedback to all of you performers, and you can respond to them. And thank you to the audience for listening and engaging and commenting. Thanks, Dakita. I know that was your first time in Expressing Motherhood, so I appreciate you trying out our show virtually. All right, we have Shannon Noel up, a Los Angeles-based comedian, storyteller, and half of Mommy Talk. Let's find you, Shannon. Here you are. Oh my God. Hi, Shannon.
Hi. It's okay, Lynn.
Yeah.
Hey, there we are. Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. So great to be here tonight. I have been thinking about all of us moms lately and how we lean on each other for support and how we create our villages and help each other out with our babies and our toddlers and our teens and our preteens, and how that support can really, save a mama from a lot of struggle. Just having someone to lean on, I spent a lot of time crying during those early days, both from sheer exhaustion and also from the emotional roller coaster that is just being a new mom. And I'm forever grateful for the women in my life who held space for me during that time and still do today. And I've got a few friends who have had their first babies during this time of COVID and quarantining. And for them, those early days of motherhood have been really different. And I hope that they can feel the love from us mothers, even if we can't hold their babies or love on them physically right now. I hope they know that we love them, and we cannot wait to hold their babies and to help them out and to give them all of our support. And I also hope they know that it's okay to cry, and often that it's just a really important release. So this song goes out to all those new moms and all of us, really. She's crying like a newborn baby on her baby's floor. Crying like a newborn baby on her baby's floor. She's never cried so hard before, she don't even know what she's crying for. But she's crying like a newborn baby on her baby's floor. She can't take this crazy mess no more. Can't take another trip to the grocery store. Her mama never told her it would be this bad. One minute she's happy and the next she's sad. She can't take this crazy mess no more. Sometimes she just wanna up and run away. She wonders, would they be better without her anyway? Her daddy didn't raise her to be so mean. She don't like to fight, she don't like to scream. Sometimes she just wanna up and run away. 'Cause she don't like this woman she's become. And her husband doesn't understand why she's so undone. Surely there must be a way. Can she see herself through one more day? 'Cause she don't like this woman she's become. Those bootstraps up again. She's gonna late night text to a true and trusted friend. She's gonna crawl to her bed on her hands and knees and beg the Lord for mercy with a pretty please. And she's gonna cry like a newborn baby on her baby's floor.
Yay. Yay, Shannon. Thanks, Shannon. Okay, let's see. All right, next up we have, am I muted? Great. Next up we have Fielding Edlo. She's an actor, comedian, writer whose half-hour comedy special, Can't Say Slut, is actually now streaming on Amazon, so you guys can watch that. She created and starred in the acclaimed web series Bitter Homes and Gardens, and season 2 is out later this year. So, Feeling Edlo, welcome to Expressing Motherhood for the first time.
Thanks so much, Lindsay.
Sorry.
We can do a duet. That's cool.
Oh, God. Kill me. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Take it away.
I'm having the greatest time. Thank you so much, Lindsay. This is a blast. I have to say this is such an awesome night. It feels like a very peppy gathering of well-rounded ex-theater majors and like multifaceted moms. It's awesome. I just have to say right off the bat, like I'm having the time of my life right now because my husband's been away for a week. So honestly, it feels like I'm on a private wine safari around Mykonos. Like every day is a goddamn sensation. Like before he left, would he just go out to get the mail? I was like, oh my God, I feel like I went to St. Bart's. And mostly because I married a balding middle-aged character actor who snores like a truffle pig and cried 4 different times during Sex in the City too. That's right, I have sex with that. His name is Larry. Anyone have sex with a Larry? No, no one does. Okay, and basically all this thing, and I know I'm supposed to be, I'll get to the theme of motherhood, but I mother him. So guess what, I'm on theme. And it's also because he's just on his phone all day long. I don't know if he's texting his psycho ex or he's just in the fat guy's dark web. I mean, he's on Facebook so much that Mark Zuckerberg sent him a private message being like, dude, maybe you should spend some more time with your family. Like, and I know I'm supposed to keep the focus on myself. My friend was like, why don't you put down the magnifying glass and pick up the mirror? And I'm like, okay, Kayla, why don't you change your Zoom background? Because you obviously didn't play drums for the Cranberries. Like, leave me alone. Like, am I having a nervous breakdown right now? So I'm like, we're like one dead cat away from divorce. I think we're one misspelled DirecTV password away from somebody getting anthrax in their overnight oats. I mean, like, I mean, not to brag, but I have to set an iPhone timer to remind myself to touch my husband. Like, we don't need another couples therapist. Like, we just need a kitchen timer from Sur la Table. Like, okay, we have one 8-year-old daughter, just one, because I feel like you can still kind of leave if you just have one. Anyway, I call her my little cock block, or her Hebrew name is cock block. By the way, I don't identify as a mom, which is why I generally have stripper tinsel in my hair. But by the way, right before I logged on, literally my kid just goes, is that what you're wearing on your Zoom show? I was like, honestly, I can shove you right back up where you came from. Like, and I know that's medically impossible, but like, Are you kidding me? My daughter's like Zoom school uniform is like a crop top body glitter and like kid lip gloss that smells like old tires. It's like I gave birth to a little Disney hooker. Like, I don't know what is happening. A mom just emailed me and she's like, no offense, your kid kind of looks like a Vegas showgirl on a group callback at the Bellagio. I was like, I know I'm not mom of the year. I get it. And yeah, maybe I let her watch the final season of Oz. Just a little, because the shower penetration scenes were nuanced and real. And yeah, maybe the very first night she was born, I explicitly said to the nurse, please do not bother me under any circumstances. Just, can you grab somebody else's tit in the hallway? Like, does it have to be mine? And by the way, she just said to me, Mommy, what's the eggplant emoji? And I was like, a really fun party. Here's my biggest takeaway from homeschooling an 8-year-old, okay? She might not be that bright. Okay, I know I'm not that bright, but it's like, are there bumper stickers which say my kid is solidly below average? This was a question, this was an actual question my daughter just asked me. Mommy, was Santa Claus alive during the 80s? What is that? I was like, bitch, you're Jewish. Like, you should be asking me if Rabbi Ben Eliezer made a splash at Studio 54 in the 70s. Anyway, I dislike her friends. I dislike all of her friends. One of them, her name's Cloud. That's right. I'm friends with the mom who's, okay. So Cloud, the 8-year-old, texts me to see if my daughter's free. You think I'm an 8-year-old social secretary? Stop texting me, Cloud. It's one of the most insulting things that's ever happened to me. I'm like, you don't think I have dreams, Cloud? You don't think I want to do the Netflix reimagining of Miss Julie or the Grapes of Wrath? By the way, after this set, I'm going to microdose an Entenmann sheet cake and put myself on an Amber Alert. Okay? And I hope no one finds me. All right. And I know I have to dismount soon. And I think she lost another tooth last week. So after she went to sleep, my husband was like, do you think we should get a neighbor to write a note from the tooth fairy? And all I could think was, I think my soulmate's probably still out there. Like, if you think I'm secretly scampering off to a neighbor's house and risk getting a super duper variant strain of COVID to perpetuate this ridiculous fantasy, you're 8 years old. You still believe in the tooth fairy? What is wrong with you? You still believe in the Jumanji control panel? You believe Anna Kendrick wrote a memoir at 27? Do you believe I don't think about anybody else when I bang your dad? Is that, all right, guys, I think that's gonna be my closer, but thank you so much for having me. And I'm fielding Edlo.
All right, thanks, Fielding. My 11-year-old walked through right at that point. He had a big smile. He liked it. People were laughing. Read the comments. Okay, so next up we have Ursula Whittaker. Ursula was a fierce Barbie player from 4th to 8th grade. She only stopped playing Barbie, she says, when she realized that if her school peers found out she was still playing with Barbies at 13 years old, they would have teased her to no end, or so she thought. All right, Ursula. Let me find you.
Mommy, I'm afraid I'm going to die of cancer. Our 8-year-old daughter, August, says to me 2 months into this pandemic. It is way past her bedtime, which is an unfortunate pattern we maintain throughout the pandemic, despite my best efforts. I'm sitting on her bed next to her in the dark, wondering to myself, is this August's intuition? Or is this anxiety? Instead, what I say is, you are healthy. You do not have cancer. This cancer fear isn't completely out of left field. August knows that both of her grandmothers died of cancer. She knows that 2 of my good friends are recovering from cancer. Lastly, and most importantly, she knows that her good friend at school was diagnosed with leukemia 6 months earlier. August, it is very rare for children to get cancer. And then she follows up with, Mommy, I'm afraid you're a witch pretending to be my mom who's trying to poison me. The witch fear, though it does creep me out, reminds me of 2 play dates where August's friend told her I was an evil witch from whom they together needed to run away. How much do I love this friend at 10 o'clock at night? That must be scary for you to not be able to trust me. I empathize. Then I try, I am your real mom who wants you to get your rest tonight.
If I were an evil witch, would I care about your sleep? With the help of a couple of extra Alway Island stories, a guided meditation and gentle bedtime story podcast for children, and spending my entire evening laying next to her, August finally falls asleep just before 11. The following night, we were having dinner when August leaps up from the table, grabs my phone from the kitchen counter. What are you doing? I ask. She knows there's no phones at dinner. I need to listen to an Alway Island story, she urgently pleads. I stand to take my phone back. That's for when you go to bed. You want to go to bed without dinner? Are you sick? I ask incredulously. She wraps her arms around my waist so tightly as if I'm a buoy and she's a shipwreck survivor bobbing along at sea. Her big brown eyes look up into my face, her eyebrows slanting on a diagonal. I know this expression of worry in her intelligent face. She's been making it since before she could talk. I can't stop thinking about the worries I told you, she whispers. Oscar, my husband, tries. August, you haven't eaten dinner. Sit down and eat, sweetheart. August shakes her head no. I think about the guided meditations she wants. Honestly, I find the voices on this podcast condescending, but I recognize that for now, they help make bedtime a little less scary for her. I borrow from the podcast and say to her, let's take some deep dragon breaths together. Inhale, exhale. Mommy, it's not working. And with that, she leaves Oscar, the phone, and me, making her way to her bedroom. I'm terrified. Our only child is struggling from the inside. She's wrestling ghosts. We are failing her. Is she broken? Did I do this? What if we can't figure this out? What does this look like when she's in high school? Later that night, I buy a worry workbook on Amazon for August. I ask a friend for a children's therapist recommendation and send that therapist a detailed email. I reach out to the school's yoga instructor and see if she will teach August yoga in person in our backyard, socially distancing. And I do my best to assure August that she's going to be okay, that we will figure this out together. Yet again, she falls asleep just before 11. The workbook, the yoga, and the therapist do start to help August and Oscar and me feel more supported in the following weeks and months. For the first time in August's life, I realize I've been misdiagnosing many of her stomach aches that she's been complaining about since she could talk. They have not all been food sensitivities. I realize our daughter has been struggling with anxiety since the beginning of her life. The colic she experienced for the first 4 months of her life, crying every day from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., that was baby anxiety. It only took the intensity of a pandemic to make me see.
Thank you, Ursula. Thank you. Next up, we have Janelle Scales. Janelle is an anti-bias consultant whose mission in life is to make people so uncomfortable that they will change their minds and then change their actions. She is a writer and lover of humanity and a mother of 2.
Hello.
Hi, I'm gonna get you.
Is the sound okay? Because I don't.
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, here we go. Hey,
Okay.
y'all. Jackie Lacey must go. Jackie Lacey must go. Jackie Lacey will go. Jackie Lacey will go. Those were the chants of the crowd gathered in front of the Hall of Injustice. It was a decent crowd, not the thousands that were gathered in the weeks following the murder of George Floyd. A few months had passed since that paradigm shifting moment. It was maybe 200 of us. Everyone wearing masks, a collection of diverse people, Black and white Americans, Black and white Latinas, Indigenous and Asian folks, cis and trans folks. Mostly young folks, but definitely some old heads in the crowd too. I was holding my daughters close to my chest, arms wrapped around the both of them. The 8-year-old was bored. She complained of her legs hurting from standing too long. She saw the other children there with tablets. She wondered why I wouldn't allow her to bring one. Those children were the regulars, there every Wednesday for months, maybe even years. The children who were there because when the words, "Say her name," came blaring out of the megaphone, the name the crowd responded with was a relative. The name belonged to their mother or aunt or maybe cousin. It was the name of the 500 plus people who had been killed by police under the tenure of Jackie Lacey. Not one of those 500 families had tasted a morsel of justice. No charges had been filed for any of the officers responsible for those deaths. The brother of Meli Corrado was there. Meli was working as an assistant manager at Trader Joe's when police indiscriminately shot into the grocery store. Meli was killed by police at her place of employment. I picked my little one up. She wrapped her legs around my waist, rested her chin on my shoulders, her bottom sitting on my arms. She's small for an 8-year-old. Some people mistake her for 5 or 6. Her motor skills are excellent, even for an 8-year-old. So when people see her ride her bike or play soccer, they are always impressed, perhaps more impressed than they should be. I was still holding her when Waukesha Wilson's mother began to speak. She said, voice shaking, "Waukesha was my world." I felt my heart stop, heavy with grief and guilt. Tears poured down that mother's eyes. She was missing her world. I was holding my world, bored and squirmy in my arms. I brought my daughters because I wanted them to experience the biggest social justice movement of their lifetime, my lifetime, perhaps all lifetimes, when millions of people worldwide took to the streets singing, "Black lives, they matter here." I wanted them to see all the people who didn't know them and yet loved them. I wanted them to see the people who risked life and limb, jobs and disease for them, for their safety, for their future, for the safety and future of us all. A chant began again. "Jackie Lacey must go. Jackie Lacey will go." It was more than a chant. It was a prayer, a manifestation, a hope, a dream. I yelled out the words, praying that when election night came, those hopes and dreams would become a reality. I wanted the families to have something. It wouldn't be justice, but something worth far less than justice and something worth far more than nothing. Hope. That's the word. Hope that their daughter, friend, brother, son mattered to the world. I wanted my daughters to see what faith and works really felt like. All of the activists, suffragists, abolitionists since the foundation of this country had incredible imagination. They imagined and called into existence a world that they weren't yet living in. They imagined enslaved humans as liberated humans. They imagined women who had never voted casting ballots for the first time. They imagined immigrants as citizens. They imagined Black and Indigenous folks living free of lynchings and burning crosses. So we too, assembled with 6 feet of space between us, imagined a new district attorney. One who might bring justice to a family who lost a loved one. We chanted, we canvassed, we believed. And when the polls closed and the ballots were counted, I told my daughters, Jackie Lacey did go. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Janelle. It's beautiful. Thank you. Next up, we have Ashlyn Schaefer. Ashlyn is a daycare provider. She's a freelance writer, blogger, author, and homeschooling mom to 3 kids. She lives with numerous pets, kids, her husband, and she lives in Des Moines, Iowa. Yay, where I'm from. All right, Ashlyn, I'm gonna find you. Get rid of myself.
It's okay. I just remembered to unmute myself. All right. It was a hot August day as my fingers loudly tapped at the keyboard. My face was swollen, pimples covering my chin from the stress of the last month. Are you sure? I breathed into the phone, confirming before I hit send. Do it, my husband replied. With one quick move, it was done. I hung up the phone as a rush of relief released my body. As quickly as relief came, anxiousness set in. School would be starting in 2 weeks. If this had been any other year, back to school shopping would be done and we'd be relishing the last days of summer. I pulled out my own spiral notebook and began making lists and plans, and then another list. Instead, I had to lesson plan, learn an entire curriculum, and make my children's year-long education plan in mere days. How was I to pull this off? Did I think this through? I seem to question myself more these days than I ever did in the past. It's quite possible the pandemic had turned me into a neurotic, anxious version of myself. My phone alerted me to a new email. My eyes filled with tears as I read the first line. Welcome to our homeschool program. We're so excited to have you. I wouldn't jump right to excited for me, but it did bring me relief. At least I didn't have to worry about random schedule changes, quarantines, overcrowding at schools, our district's court case with the state over returning to school, and I could still continue my life as is. This still forced the question, how was I going to do it? How was I going to run a business, write, run a children's museum, and homeschool our 3 children? All while my husband put in extra hours at work where he was exposed to thousands of people each day. I didn't know how I was going to do it. All I knew was that I didn't want to deal with my children being exposed to COVID more than they already were. I didn't want to deal with an inconsistent schedule because then I couldn't run my business. There was the chance we would lose my income if that were to happen. Maybe some would call me selfish, but I don't. I put our entire family's well-being front and center and made a decision that would benefit all of us in the end. Just because I made the decision to homeschool and avoid everything else didn't mean I could answer the question that so many asked. How are you going to do it? I didn't know. I still don't know how I do it other than to just do it. Dig in and go. Months later, I sat on a Zoom call with girlfriends. They all complained about how their child was on their 3rd quarantine of the school year and they couldn't take any more time off of work. Another complained how virtual learning was draining and their children were learning nothing. I sat and sipped my beer with nothing to say. I didn't pretend to know what they were feeling because I chose a different route. When it was my turn to share, I carefully chose my words. This school year had been a breeze. My children didn't fight me on schoolwork. We were able to set our own schedule. I didn't have to deal with cranky kids in the morning. Instead, they woke up at any hour, they make their own breakfast, and even began cooking meals for me. We were no longer rushed. Everyone was thriving, including me in various ways, who no longer had to keep track of 5 or more schedules a day. My girlfriends applauded me for success, and I cried. I cried because I chose a different path. One I know we have been lucky to have because we are privileged with choices, but it's not a path anyone I know identifies with. I managed to find myself alone on a path with myself, 3 children, husband, and a pandemic puppy. My friends applauded me for seemingly having my shit together. And I cried because this hasn't been easy. It's been the most challenging thing I've done to date. So often I find myself saying, after the pandemic, and I stop myself. How do I want life to be after the pandemic? Do I want our life to return as it was? We've been able to avoid so many things others are worried about by simply changing our lifestyle. What happens when normal returns? Will we be equipped to handle it? All of these questions will find their answers, and I'm hopeful to find myself on a path again with others I can relate to. People other than those living under my own roof. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashlyn. Okay, next up we have Kristin Siaccio Briggs. Kristin is a Los Angeles-based artist. When she is not painting in her studio, she is CEO of Snacks for her two boys, ages 10 and 11. In recent months, Kristin has taken up writing as an homage to her mother, who was a writer and journalist, but sadly passed away in July. Her mom was the light of her life, and her spirit shines through in Kristin's writing, as well as her ongoing series of paintings about her 1970s era childhood home. Her favorite thing to do is explore California with her husband and boys, and her husband, Paul Briggs, just co-directed the new movie from Disney that's out called Raya, and I'm gonna watch it with my kids when this is over. They're so excited. So anyway, congratulations to your whole family, Kristin. I'm gonna find you. Going to Kristin's house is really fun because they're both artists. I mean, I look through the windows. We hang out in the yard most of the time. Okay, hold on. Go ahead, Krista. I'm gonna get rid of myself.
Okay.
Okay.
Once upon a time, we were in the middle of a pandemic. We were told to only leave our homes for the essentials. Our kids were doing school online from home. We had been sheltering in place for 8 or 9 weeks. Back then, we were all just quarantine babies. It was spring, Mother's Day weekend, and we were in the height of the lockdown. Being confined to our homes and not seeing friends was something we hadn't mastered yet, and it was driving us all insane. Since it was Mother's Day, we wanted to do something special, anything really, as long as it was outside of our home. My husband looked at us and said, "Do you want to go on an adventure?" "Do we need to wear shoes?" the kids asked. "Yes," we said. "Real shoes?" Their eyes widened. Clearly, we hadn't left the house for weeks. We picked up some lobster rolls and drove over to the ocean. We saw that the beaches were all closed, so we pulled into a Chevron station. We just needed to park anywhere so we could pull off the road to eat. Enveloped in fluorescent light, our view was a dumpster surrounded by a prison-like chain link fence. We'll take it. In the car next to us, there was a couple eating their dinner on their laps, just like us. Apparently, we were on the same adventure. The kids didn't seem curious as to why we were there, parked at a gas station in the dark. They were happily eating their shrimp, delighted just to be out of the house. My husband said, "Come on, let me show you something." We got out of the car and the Chevron sign buzzed loudly over our heads. The kids pressed their masked faces against the rusted metal fence to see if they could get a glimpse of the waves. We looked down the cliffside, but it was pitch black and we could barely make out the water below. Then suddenly there was a shock of blue. The kids gasped. "It's glowing blue," they said. Our kids had never seen the bioluminescence, and neither had we. Neon waves gently swept up the shore. The aqua glow was otherworldly, electric. It was truly magnificent. By that time, other families had joined us in the secret spot. We were all huddled along the fence of this gas station, perched high up on a cliff. We had all snuck out of our homes to see the bioluminescence. I looked down onto the beach and saw something move on the sand. I saw fur and a tail. At first, I thought it was a dog, but its movements were strange, its body elongated. Then it started climbing up the hill. It wasn't a coyote. It climbed a little bit higher, and I could see it slink between the ice plant. Its fur was reddish. It It was a fox. Look, a fox, I said to my boys. I looked over at the family next to us to see if they noticed. A fox, I said to the teenage girl. She looked, then she pointed. Zorro, she said in Spanish to her mom. Her family exclaimed when they saw it. Zorro, Zorro, mira, mira. I heard them all abuzz. I could hear the excitement traveling down the fence as people spotted the fox and pointed. It was like a mysterious fairy tale where a woodland creature emerged from the mystical waters. Was this even real? We were all completely transfixed by this animal, winding through the succulents while stars appeared to fall into the sea. I looked around me. It had been so long since I had felt connected to other people. It felt so good, all of us marveling together at this magical sighting. It felt so good to be out in the world, not the scary pandemic world, but the nice world. We also desperately needed this. Our kids needed to experience something new, something safe, something unexpected, light in the darkness. I remember that night as being one of our happiest nights of this past year. Perhaps the fox was also there to admire the luminous sea, or perhaps it truly was a pandemic fairy tale.
Thanks, Kristin. I'm jealous you did that. All right, next up we have Stacey Burrows. Stacey is a singer, songwriter, comedian based in Topanga Canyon, and she's one half of the musical comedy duo Mommy Tonk. I know we all miss Mommy Tonk, and hopefully soon when we get vaccinated and all that stuff. Okay, let's see. Hi, Stace.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, everybody.
Uh-oh.
I'll wait for your word.
No, thanks, Stace. There you go.
Okay, hey, I think I'm on. Hi, guys.
Okay.
So this year-long quarantine has made me really appreciate my granny, my dad's mother. Together with her husband, they raised 3 kids on a working farm in Caledonia, Mississippi in the 1940s. They raised their kids without electricity, without indoor plumbing, and without internet. I mean, hello, can you imagine this last year without internet? I can't imagine that. But she was a very strong, reliable, capable mother, and my father loved her very much. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough for my kids so that they know that I love them. But then I think back on my granny. You know, she was in service to her house, her farm, and her family for her entire life. And she didn't complain. She just focused on meeting their needs, right? And she did it for longer than a year. I know we're going to be going back to normal soon, and I'm going to try to adjust my perspective on meeting my kids' needs versus meeting their wants. You know what I mean? I want to focus on the needs because I'm going to try to take some pressure off myself of trying to be a perfect mom. And you can demonstrate your love for your kids in the smallest of ways. Nothing grandiose about it. Because when you're gone, it's the small things they'll remember, like your Wi-Fi code. They'll never forget your Wi-Fi code. And to all you moms out there that worry that this past year of sacrifice has done irreparable harm to your children, I just might add that my granny lived through the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, and she never even mentioned it. So it's a blip. This song is called Fried Chicken. With a simple preparation of a simple bird, she told you she loved you without saying a word. She was never one for hugs and she was never one for kisses, but you got what you needed from her deep fried chicken. Nothing smells like home, no matter how far you roam. Water and salt and oil on heat now taste like like the tears that run right down your cheek. Blue hydrangeas climbing up her front stair. In the afternoon sunshine, you'd find her there. She lived in that house till she was damn near 80. Then her husband got sick, she had to leave for the city. Nothing smells like home, no matter how far you roam. Water and salt and oil on heat now taste like the tears that run right down your cheek. She almost lived for forever, just shy of a day. But her time had expired, she had to go away. So they took her body back to old Mississippi and laid her to rest far away from that city. That city never smelled like home. It was far too far to roam. Concrete and lights were no match for that farm. They never had much, but it never did them no harm. So you went back to visit the old homestead. In lieu of your mama, there was something else instead. The doors had been locked for nearly 10 years, but the smell in the air like to drive you to tears. It was a chicken and the biscuits and those collard greens, all laid on a table, plucked right from a dream. The neighbors heard you were coming home. You're a country boy, no matter how far you roam. And with a simple preparation of a simple bird, they told you they loved you without saying a word. That's for you, Dad. I got a little nervous, but I love you. I miss you.
Hey. Yay, Stace. Oh my God, you look beautiful and you sounded beautiful. Thank you. And hello to Stacy's dad. And also thank you to, speaking of men, Gary Gray. He's my tech help. Gary Gray's a tech concierge here in Los Angeles. So you can reach out to him if you need tech help. All right, we have 3 more performers for you this evening. We have Tanisha Mcgraw up next. She's a mom of 4 and a yaya to 2 little nuggets. She is currently chasing her career dreams behind the scenes of a few of your favorite TV shows, and she writes, sharing her stories on expressing motherhood and on her podcast, the Finally Free podcast, to inspire others along the way. And again, you can connect with these women. I've posted all of their long bios, the longer bios on the Expressing Motherhood Instagram. All right. Okay, Tanisha. Thank you.
Hi, you're welcome. I have been divorced for 12 years. When the kids were all at home, I held it down financially and managed all their extracurricular schedules. As a single mother, I didn't have much help from family or their father during that time. Because of this, I often found it difficult to be in 2 places at once, but I always managed to make it happen. The frequency at which my ex would get the kids was truly less than acceptable for many years. We struggled to maintain a consistent visitation schedule. Many things were happening during that time that really hindered our ability to see eye to eye. Drama plagued our parallel parenting. Yes, parallel parenting. Co-parenting is not something we have ever really been able to do. 6 years ago, I decided to move to LA. I let their dad know, and he was surprisingly supportive. He kept the 2 younger boys for the first 4 months so that I could get settled. That experience was very stressful for me. I was happy when that full-time dad parenting moment was over. I was excited to have them back in my care. They arrived midsummer. Each year, they went back for visits during most of their Christmas break. Then the pandemic happened and everything changed. The boys were struggling to keep up with their schoolwork. I was home 24/7 with them, being teacher and mom to a high school senior and an 8th grader. The senior was having a difficult time finishing his classes up to this point already. We tested and studied and wrote papers. We were all very overwhelmed by the lack of boundaries that had come to be during these COVID times. I did my very best to keep spaces delineated so that there was some semblance of school versus home. But in all honesty, this proved to be virtually impossible. I had so many conversations with their dad, and he tried his best to encourage them from afar, but all his words proved to fall on deaf ears. As the months passed, I was very concerned about their overall progress. They seemed to be disinterested in school. They are both really smart, but not motivated to get their work done in this new online environment. I spoke to their dad several times about them, and he always posed the idea that they come stay with him. I was adamantly opposed to this idea because I truly could not fathom giving up the last few years I had with my youngest child. I would not bear witness to most of the monumental high school moments. I wanted to hear nothing of the sort. I said no every time this idea was tossed on the table. I could handle it. I had done this for this long, right? Well, as the new set of social restrictions dug its heels into our entire lives, I was feeling as though I was quite incapable as a parent. We managed to finish out the school year. June couldn't come fast enough. The break from school was short-lived. I looked up and August had come. Time for school to begin again. I had a 9th grader and a freshman in college. I quickly discovered that schoolwork was not going to get done. The virtual learning process was just a struggle. I had to go back to work and my days spanned over 12 hours or more. This left no time for me to be the teacher. I barely had time to be mom. September came quickly and still no positive progress for either boy. Towards the middle of the month, I began the hardest conversation I had ventured to have in a very long time. It began with, "Remember when you said the boys would be better off with you for a period of time?" After a few days of talks, I decided to relinquish the control I had always had and agreed to let them go live with their father 1,600 miles away for an indefinite amount of time. This was incredibly difficult for me. 27 years I had been active parenting. It was now time for their needs to come before my wants, even as their mother. At this particular time in our lives, it was clear we had to create a new normal. These last few months have definitely been a major adjustment for me. To go from full-time parenting to only being responsible for myself is quite a drastic change. I'm so accustomed to managing kids' schedules on top of mine that now, with only my time to be concerned with, I often feel anxious about the moments where there is literally nothing. I am, for the first time in life, learning to sit alone and actually feel. This, for so many years, was not an option because I had basketball and baseball games, cheerleading and band competitions, school programs, the list was endless. Now that I've entered this new phase of life, I am finding time to sit with myself and think about all the things I never had space or time for. The different modes of exercise, walks on the beach, random writing, and career modifications. I'm still adjusting, but I am grateful for this opportunity. This pandemic has taught me that change comes often and without regard for our wants. We must always be willing to do what is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanisha. I love that. A change comes often. All right. So I started the Parenting in a Pandemic posting on Clubhouse. We'll see how it goes, but feel free to join us. Annie is going to co-host with me. So I have that going. We're not talking yet, but it's going. All right, we have Larkin O'Leary up next. And Larkin is the performer whose nonprofit a percentage of tonight's proceeds are going to. She's a wife to Peter, mom to James and June Bell, former teacher turned advocate for people with disabilities. Larkin is the president of Common Ground Society, whose mission is to create a kinder, more inclusive society while supporting families with disabilities. All right. Larkin. Okay, thanks, Larkin.
All right, thank you. For me, this pandemic has been very triggering. It brings me right back to the start of my son's life, only this time the whole world is with us. My son was born with Down syndrome, hearing loss, and a whole host of medical issues. He's had 29 surgeries, hundreds of days in the hospital. And during those days, I sat praying I'd be lucky enough to go home with my son in my arms. I watched the world continue on without us on my tiny screen. I saw my feed fill up with pictures of birthday parties, 4th of July celebrations, and holidays as I sat idly by with my son in the hospital alone. This pandemic has brought to surface many of those same feelings of loneliness, jealousy, understanding, and eventual acceptance. Watching people continue on with their lives like they aren't afraid, like we are, is hard. Taking those actions personally made it even harder on myself. I would think things like, well, clearly they don't care if my son lives or dies because they're just going out spreading this awful thing. I was outraged and jealous at the people who had the luxury of not caring. Those who could believe this theory or not, it wasn't even an option for us. I've kept my son alive this long. I am not going to lose him to this, even if it was nothing. Eventually, like all experiences, I was able to move past those feelings and find myself understanding. I understand that people all go through their own battles and are allowed to have their own feelings and beliefs, that they had nothing to do with me. I repeat, they had nothing to do with me. Slowly, I began to accept the fact that this just is the way life is right now, in this moment, and I have to do the best I can to make this life the best I can, just like before. I still have my days of mourning the loss of friendships and hugs, going out to eat, or our annual family vacations we missed this year, mourning my daughter's first birthday party that we didn't get to celebrate the way I had envisioned. As triggering as this pandemic has been, there's also been some really great things that have come of it. My husband got to witness our daughter's first steps. I finally learned how to meal plan, which is good. And best of all, my son has remained healthy this entire year, and we will soon be celebrating our very first 1 year out of the hospital free anniversary since my son's birth in 2014. I never thought before having my son that not being in the hospital would be something that I would celebrate. But now I realize the magnitude of the things that most people don't even realize exist. Thank you.
Thanks, Larkin. Thank you. All right. In closing our show out tonight, we have April Wish. She's a solo theater artist who has toured from Maui to Wisconsin in between room parent duties for her daughter and cleaning up her son's Play-Doh messes. Her second solo show, Mommy Monster, is going to premiere live on Zoom really soon, March 20th and 22nd. So I encourage you to get tickets to support April while we are unable to be in the theater. So tickets and information can be found at aprilwish.com. All right, April. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, you got it.
Okay. It's March 2020. It's a hellish nightmare outside. People are frenzied. They are clearing the shelves of toilet paper. They are, as we are supposed to be, panicked and consuming. It is, after all, the fucking apocalypse. There's no hand sanitizer at Target, no traffic on the freeway, but I'm inside. Folding laundry. Clementine says, batting her long eyelashes at me, No, you can't have TV. You had like a lot of TV yesterday. You have literally like 9 million toys. No! Maybe I should throw them away then. No! Just let me fold the damn clothes. Do you think I like doing this? I just know that I did the laundry 2 days ago and it's already like tripled in size again. Tucker, stop. Just get off the piles. I just folded those. Get off of your head like that. Okay. Love you, Mama. I love you too, honey. He says this when he's in trouble. I mean, it works every time. It's not good that he's on his head like that. Should I take him to the doctor? I mean, it's just that, am I being lazy? Because the occupational therapy, it's expensive and it means that we would have to be tied to this crazy schedule and I'm already feeling like I'm drowning a little every day. I mean, we are too busy for specialists. There's just so much laundry. I stop folding the laundry and I say, Clementine, do you want to tell me something that happened in Zoom school this week? You know, like your favorite something? She's only 6 and I'm already terrible at this. Can I watch TV? She's persistent. No, I said no. See, I'm not even surprised at my tone anymore. Like I can't even muster the ability to pretend like I care about what happened in school this week. Fuck. It's here. See, I caught it. What we're all afraid of, you know, what we buy for, you know? The malaise. The over-awareness of the dark parts of the world. It's so contagious. I don't want to give it to my kids. It is so contagious. So I decide I'm gonna be better. I set up an elaborate slime project and that they're over and done with it in less than 5 minutes. I mean, the kids have now decided that I'm mommy monster and they're hiding from me and they're shooting me with fake guns behind a barricade of stuffed animals. Pew, pew. I'm dead. Boo. I'm a monster. See you. I'm a ghost. And I don't know where to put myself in the house and I don't know where to put these feelings in my body. So I just fold the laundry. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That's our show this evening. Thank you, April. Thank you to this cast for taking the time out of your very stressful lives to write and share what it's been like to parent in this pandemic. I'm so grateful to you. I really appreciate it. Thanks to the audience for taking the time to watch us. Just thanks for supporting, you know, creative moms. Again, you don't have to be a mom to be in the show. We love men. So hoping some men submit to our 2 final shows, then I'm going to go on hiatus. Thank you, Gary Gray of Tech Haven. Yay, you can see him. That's it. I'm gonna take a picture and then you guys can split. Thank you so much. Let me take one quick picture. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Got it. All right. Thanks, cast. And please keep in touch with Expressing Motherhood. You can read, all the comments are so nice to read. If you want, Annie and I are on Clubhouse. I know a lot. I barely know what this is, but we're going to go talk on it. Clubhouse. Oh, are you on it, Shannon? Oh, good, good. Okay, so look for me, Lindsay Cavett, on Clubhouse. It's just audio. You just talk, which is nice. Bravo to all of you performers. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will try to upload this to YouTube. This was really nice. Like, I was very stressed today, but this was worth it. This is worth the stress. You guys made me feel better. A natural Xanax. All right.
You did it, Lindsay. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, unmute yourselves. You guys did it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Everyone did amazing.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Good.
everybody.
Thank
Great
you,
job,
Lindsay.
Thanks,
Lindsay.
guys.
Great job.
Great job,
Hi,
Lindsay.
Stacey.
Thank
Stacey,
you.
you had me
you.
bawling, of course. Holy she's. Hi, Stacey's family. That somebody bring me some fried chicken.
Bye, guys. Megan's on Clubhouse, and you're still here. Wow. This is